Hello everybody. As you can see, this is one of the tin chessmen for a chess set that I'm making for the Sacred Heart School. It has beautiful detail. You can see the lines of the hair on the horse, the face, the bridle, the armor the soldier's wearing, even the hair on the horse's tail here, and the saddle, and the base here as well. Now this is made with a rubber mold. Tin has a low enough melting point that I'm able to pour hot tin into the mold. However, copper has a much higher melting point. So I thought, what if I tried to press this into the molds here and pour it? These aren't rubber, this is the sand. As you can see, this is the flask that we showed elsewhere. The flask and then the sand. And I'll show you how I did this. I managed to successfully pour a horseman. This is copper. Copper has a much higher melting point than tin. And I was just amazed at how much detail is actually in this. Now there's imperfections. You can see the little bubbling spots there. But you can see the bridle. It needs to be cleaned up a little bit, but there's definitely some copper in here where there shouldn't be. See the space between the horseman and the mane there? It's covered up by tin here. So there's lots of little imperfections, but I'm just impressed at how good a job this actually did in pouring. So we're gonna give it another try. So, you can see here, I've got the flasks again. We're gonna break the sand out of the flasks so that we can give this another shot. All right. Now to begin, I'm going to go ahead and put the sand right back in. It's nice and warm from having already been poured. Pat it down nice and tight. Got a stick here that I use to press it in. Make sure it's packed in there pretty good. For this small mold here, this small flask, it's not quite as crucial maybe as it would be for a bigger one, but once I got that, I'm going to just make sure it's nice and level. All right, now clean this out just a little bit here. Get this other sand out of the way so I don't have any mistakes with that. There we go. Now we're going to press this horseman down into the mold. And to do this, I want to make sure that I have him nice and flat so you can see the very top of the helmet there. I want to have that resting just on the top of the sand, maybe even just slightly pressed into the sand, so that I get as much of the detail as possible. I'm also going to press him in like so that I get the foot in the back there down, and then when the sand is poured over the top, it'll hopefully cover part of the back side of that foot. If I put it down this way, then that space between the feet, space behind the foot there, would be not covered by sand. Right about here. All right. So the top of his helmet, that visor is flush with the surface of the sand. His tail is about halfway in. The base here is about halfway down. That foot on the other side there is down in the sand a bit. And then there's a little gap here that'll, when I put the top part of the flask on here, the sand will sit on the top of that bottom foot there. All right, the next step is going to be baby powder. This will just make it so that when I ram the sand down from the top side of the flask, it'll separate more easily. That was more than enough. In fact, that was a bit too much. There we go. All right. Now we put the top part of the flask on. And here's the easy part. All you do is you stuff the sand in and you pack it down. Trying to get it especially around the figure. We'll ram that in nice and tight. All right, gotta make sure we ram it down. Should be good. All right. All right then. Now we open it up and we should see. Beautiful. Look at that. So the tail here beautifully came in. The base is nice and flat. First time I didn't have quite as much success with the base and I had to try to fix it a little bit myself. The reins, beautifully done, beautiful. Even the front hooves. The helmet looks great, actually. This is looking good. Okay, now when you look at this, you're gonna see right here, see how there's some sand right there? It didn't pull back out. That there's a gap in there that the sand clung into, as well as right there. You can see, you don't see the white powder here, you see dirt. Those are gonna be spots that would be very difficult for me to fix in something so minute with the sand itself, but they're gonna be imperfections when the figure is actually poured in copper. I just have to be careful in pulling him out to get as few imperfections as possible. Wiggle it back and forth just ever so slightly. And here we come. Oh, beautiful. Wow. Okay, that came out better than the first one. I have to blow them both off. See what we got. Oh my goodness, that turned out beautifully. See now, the base is perfectly flat. All of the detail in here, you can even see the grains, the hairs of the horse's tail here. Wow, that turned out beautifully. Gonna blow this one out as well. Man, I don't even want to go in there and mess anything up. It's gonna have a few imperfections, but it came so close that I think I just want to leave it the way it is. So close. The one thing I have to do yet, though, is to make a channel for when you pour the metal into the top of the flask here. There has to be a channel so that it can run into, the copper will run into the base of the horseman and then into fill up the horseman himself. So we'll form that channel now. I used up the piece of wire that I was using to make the channel in the last pour. Since this one turned out so perfectly, I'm going to set this one aside. I'm going to make the channel in this side, because there's already a little imperfection here, so I'm a little less worried about messing up the base. All right. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna leave it right there. I'm afraid if I push any further, it's gonna just break the bottom of the base there. Looks beautiful the way it is right now. So I'm gonna put these together now. It's a special kind of sand that sticks together. And now, in order to make sure it doesn't come apart on me during the pour, I'm going to use a clamp. All right. So now I just take it over and set it down near the concrete floor here and on a block of wood, just in case I'd end up spilling anything. Don't want to ruin the workbench here.